So I decided to do some digging into the SBF campaign donations because you would think it would be a bigger story. Why isn't the media covering it? Why aren't we seeing an actual graph of where SBF donated to? Turns out we do have actual graphs. You just have to search for them, influencing the midterms, and then, oh, what a coincidence it is that SBF gets arrested right after the midterms, not before. Big coincidence, or not, I guess not arrested, but it goes public and then he gets arrested right after. So SBF claims he gave tens of millions in untraceable donations to Republicans. Now, when you actually read this, it does make sense, especially if you know about American politics. He says, quote, "All of my Republican donations were dark," he said, referencing the political donations that are not publicly disclosed in the filings. And the reason, get this, he was scared about donating to Republicans because reporters freak the F out if you donate to Republicans, and he is right on that. He is. But it does seem rather convenient that the only actual data we have points to him donating to many different Democrats and being the second biggest Democrat donor, which is a shocking statistic considering the fraud, all of it's fake money. He's influencing these elections with fake money, but no one's talking about it because the only public hard data we have is the major donations to Democrats. He says he's bipartisan. He also donated to Republicans, but he just didn't want to make those public because reporters would basically call him a racist, a fascist, everything, which is true. If you know anything about American politics, it is true. You can't be an independent anymore. They'll call you racist. They'll call you fascist, even if you're an independent, because they're so obsessed and they're so brainwashed. They hate Republicans so much. They think even if you're an independent, that's basically like supporting Republicans. That's what they think, and they tell me that. So you can see here, SBF was a major Biden donor. The White House on Tuesday refused to answer questions about whether the president would return those political donations. Apparently, he donated $5.2 million, and obviously that really isn't the big story here. It's more about the political PACs that SBF donated to and the influence, the $27 million going to Protect Our Future, which is, I believe, a Democratic, these are all Democratic PACs. It's a bunch of Democrat shill PACs there, and you can see that is where all of the funds go to. Take a look at all those people. Democrat, 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 Democrat. All of it, all of the money, it's all fake money. It's all fraud, and it's all going to the Democrats. And then here's a little video of it. You can see the top donations from SBF. I'd say about 90% to Democrats, and then how about a donation to Mitt Romney? If you saw that, that is great. But overall, it is interesting that we don't actually get to see, in terms of from the media, any actual graphs. This is a remarkable true fact that he was the second biggest Democrat donor behind George Soros when it comes to the 2022 midterms. And he says, listen, I'm bipartisan. I donated to both because I'm trying to influence things, for my cryptocurrency, whatever. So I'm donating to both parties. And I had to keep the Republican donations on the down low because these people are so crazy. They'll just call me a racist, which he is true. That is right. But it is convenient. We'll have to see what comes out about possible Republican donations. You see this? I hate any and all censorship, except when it comes to Keith Olbermann. His Twitter suspension must be honored and maintained. And see, guys, I disagree with this personally. I think, honestly, it's an asset for Republicans to have Keith Olbermann on Twitter. Personally, if I was Keith Olbermann's, advising him or maybe even his therapist, I would say you need to get off. You have a mental health issue. But for Republicans, Keith Olbermann being on Twitter is a positive. No independent person is going to view what Keith Olbermann is saying and be like, oh yes, after seeing Keith Olbermann call Donald Trump a fascist for the 913th time, and he goes and gets his 11th booster, now I'm fully swung to voting for Joe Biden in 2024. So I actually think Keith Olbermann is a useful dummy for Republicans on Twitter because no independent is going to take him seriously. And then also on top of that, the one thing I was wondering, and this is a question for everyone, who's got more booster shots, Biden or Keith Olbermann? That's a question. I think one of them is coming up on number 10. It's the big number 10, getting to double digits in terms of the booster shots. We have more Twitter files and stuff to look at. It was a big thing about the FBI and their involvement. It really is remarkable, the FBI. You've got so much stuff to investigate, and you're sending Twitter messages and saying, listen, you need to police election misinformation. Of course, it's all Republican accounts. You can see, you know what the Twitter files needs to do, and this would totally expose the censorship and how one-sided it is. I would take the top 1,000 accounts that got either shadow banned, censored, removed, suspended, and really do research. How many of the top 1,000 accounts are Republican versus Democrat? And then you take a look at this list coming right from the FBI. Take a look at these 25 accounts. I would love to see out of those 25 accounts, how many of them were Republican versus how many of them were Democrat. Clearly, they're targeting Republicans. Obviously, the Democratic cope would be, oh, they're just so racist. Obviously, Republicans are going to get more banned than Democrats. There's a few different counters I would have to that. Number one, Twitter did something. The mistake that Twitter made really has nothing to do with its guidelines. When you subjectively ban people and you create an environment within Twitter where 95% of your employees are far left, or at least on the left, that is not an accurate representation of the American electorate. Because you look, it's like 47% Democrat, 45% Republican, 7% independent. When it's 95% one way, I'm not even blaming the employees. It's human nature to say, if we're all Democrats, we're probably going to look more at banning or restricting Republican accounts. That's what you do as a human. Twitter's problem is who they hired. And it's a subjective thing. And if everyone thinks one way, you're probably going to be biased against the other party, as opposed to maybe even just having 40% Republicans to 60 Dems in terms of the employees, or at least, maybe just all independents would be best. When you're dueling out these completely subjective bans, and the people that are doing it are extremely one-sided, even if you try and be fair, there's probably going to be a little bit of influence involved there. So that's the big issue with that. And then this was a tweet all the way back to 2018, and this is what they're trying to swing it as. This is it was a very big tweet that I recently saw got unearthed, and it's getting retweeted. Conservative, I have been censored for my conservative views. Me, why were you censored for wanting to lower taxes? LOL, no, not those views. So, deregulation, no, not those views either. Which views exactly? Oh, the one. So they're basically saying, oh, you're censored because you're racist and you're violating. No, that's not what it is. Twitter's goal has always been to create kind of it really doesn't matter what you say. They want to limit the amount of influence Republicans have, especially on young people. And this is shown over and over again when you take a look at the 2018 data on the midterms, age 18 to 29. The biggest difference in terms of who they vote for. Plus, Democrats won that age group by 30 points. 2020, the election, by far, Biden won it by 17 points. 2022, it was even bigger. The goal for Twitter, the idea that, oh, you're getting banned because you're racist, they just want to make Twitter, they want to be able to influence young kids and really stop the spreading and possible influence Republican people have over the younger generation. That is the overall goal, and that is why you saw and everything come out. You've got the FBI even involved, which is just crazy, but just in general, with Twitter, the idea is to really get the young kids. And I think that's another reason why Joe Biden, well, it wasn't Biden, but it was the Democrats in general, did a lot better during the midterms. And everyone's like, this makes no sense. History says if you have an approval rating this low, if the inflation is this bad, if everything is going against you, you perform horribly in the midterms. Well, now they've got a bunch of brain-dead 20-year-old woke girls who will vote for Biden, you know, even though he's senile and doesn't know anything. So that's kind of the difference in my eyes. They're really weaponizing the young people and using that and really looking at the data. They're doing a great job of it. But I think with Twitter, it doesn't come down to a conservative violating guidelines or anything like that, because you see time and time again, you know, go back to even the Hunter Biden story. They said it was hacked materials, right? It's completely made up. They will create a reason, and really, they can create a reason. That's the whole point of it. I used to argue with liberals all the time about freedom of speech on Twitter, and they said, you can be banned tomorrow, and you have no right to argue it. They are a private company. If you are saying something that they don't like, they will ban you. There is no protection. They are correct. So now why is it like, oh, you must have said something bad, that's why you got banned? When Twitter was 95% of an employee base was liberal. Really? We're going to say there's no manipulation and there's no bias against someone? Come on, guys. Let's be honest about that. But overall, the SBF stuff, the money, all we know right now, it's all Democrat, it's all fake money that was going there, and it looks like it completely helped them in terms of the 2022 situation, you know, winning and whatever, although also young people helped them. But that is just an update on that. And then the whole Twitter files. I think a lot of the reasons why they're struggling a little bit with the Twitter files to find any real hard evidence is because they had about a month to delete everything, and Twitter completely wiped their history. Because if you look at like the timeline, Elon Musk buying Twitter, they knew about it. He gets in like a month later, and a lot of it's probably deleted. They probably deleted all the collusion with Facebook and Google and things like that. And Google is really bad. I don't know what you're going to do. This is really why the whole Elon Musk conversation is so important, because Google's out of control with censorship as well. They're just as bad, if not worse, than Twitter. I would love to look up, you know what I think should be mandatory? I think everyone should know the employees of these companies in terms of their political leanings. And I think we should get more of a bipartisan type deal when it comes to social media and the internet. I mean, you search for certain things. You couldn't even search for the China protests. They completely censored them for whatever reason, right? Who knows? And they won't even cover the China protests. And again, it's like you search, it doesn't even come up. The auto thing, it goes to like some other, you know, type of protest that have no relation with the current biggest protest on the earth, which was the situation in the major Chinese cities. So they're manipulating stuff still on Google, on YouTube, on everything. And it's like, it just has to stop. Like, this is not what America is. If you really want to live with this massive manipulation by a political party, by the FBI, by someone, it's just not the place. We're built on freedom. I'm sorry, it's just not the place. And I don't want to give that answer and be like, oh, go move somewhere else, because I understand that's, you know, a dumb thing to say. But in general, it's just like, it's such a major difference in terms of people wanting there to be such little freedoms on the internet versus what we're actually doing with Twitter and really freeing it up and things like that. So we will see what happens, but it is kind of funny with the SBF thing where, oh, it looks like he donated, about $30 million to the Democrats for the midterms, and apparently his Republican donations are nowhere to be seen. He says he donated the same, and it does make sense, again, him saying, listen, they're going to call me a racist. They certainly would, because they're just these people are unhinged and not well. But in general, it is a situation where let's actually see the money, because just looking at the data, it looks like it's mainly going all to Democrats, and the Democrats virtually won the midterms, in part due to some stolen money. Also due to some brain dead young kids who probably don't know, 5 different words, when it comes to politics, voting for Joe Biden and the Democratic candidates, things like that. So guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.